Good Wednesday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock, time for Sports4CLE. The Browns back practicing out in Berea, getting ready for Sunday's game against the unbeaten San Francisco 49ers. Kevin Stefanski met with the media, talked about Deshaun Watson, as well as an update with the quarterback situation for the game Sunday against San Francisco.
On Deshaun, he's not going to practice today. He continues to be day-to-day with this injury, and we'll continue to treat it. And that's really, I'm not going to have updates past today. But with that, I'll take any questions.
After the Baltimore game, you said you expected him to be ready for San Francisco. Has something changed since then with the injury?
Yeah, I think with injuries, Jake, as you can imagine, you just have to treat each one specifically. And with this one, that's what we're doing. So just taking in information from our medical staff, from Deshaun, and making sure that we're making the right decisions with everything.
How does this change then how you prepare your other quarterback?
I mean, I think that's kind of what we do with your backups at every position. They have to be ready to play. I think we've talked about this a lot with a backup quarterback. Sometimes you're playing early in the week. Sometimes it's the third play of the fourth quarter that you're going in there. So you always have to stay ready. I will tell you for this week, PJ is going to be the backup quarterback, so he'll get the reps today with Deshaun not being out there.
With that, let's welcome in Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus. Brad, they've said it is a bruised rotator cuff, so it's in the shoulder, it's in his throwing shoulder. What do the Browns do if Deshaun Watson can't play?
Yeah, look, I do like Dorian Thompson-Robinson as a prospect, and obviously had a couple highlights in the preseason. But I do think against defenses like Baltimore's and now San Francisco's, a rookie quarterback that hasn't seen it all, that played in the Pac-12 with some porous defenses, it's going to be a struggle. And so last year, P.J. Walker was up and down, but he had two great divisional games last year against Tampa Bay. He had a 94 passing grade, 8 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, had 6 big-time throws for us in that game. And then everyone probably remembers the Atlanta game when he threw like a 65-yard bomb to DJ Moore, who then celebrated by taking his helmet off and actually losing the game for them. But he played well in both those games. There is some up, there is some down. He kind of struggled the rest of the year. But look, he's an established veteran quarterback. I think he's seen enough now. And the Niners defense, it doesn't really matter if you have prime Tom Brady. They're going to give you some problems up front.
So, in the event it isn't Deshaun Watson, it will be P.J. Walker. And here's some of the video that you're alluding to. So this is one of his starts a season ago. Walker, 4-3 as a starter, 5 games started last year for the Panthers. Team was 2-3. He threw 3 touchdowns as well as 2 interceptions. You see, he is athletic. He can run. He's mobile. That is a good thing. Here's the play you alluded to. Late in the game, kind of buys some time. He finds DJ Moore. Great throw that appeared to win the game. He took his helmet off. He gets the penalty. They missed the point after they lose in overtime. Kevin Stefanski with what P.J. Walker brings to the field. Here's some of the numbers that we alluded to.
Obviously, P.J.'s not 40, but he's played in some games. He's been around a little bit. He's played in different systems, so he's getting comfortable with what we do here. He's got a great demeanor, great way about him. He fits in well with the team. But really, just if PJ does end up playing, you're just looking for him to be the best version of himself.
What is it about PJ's game that you think is the best fit with this team?
Yeah, a talented player. I think a lot of coaches remember when PJ was coming out of Temple, cherry and white, Jeff. A very athletic player, strong arm, can throw it to all areas of the field, very intelligent. So he's fit in well with us.
And similar, I hesitate to say it, but the skill set is not that dissimilar to Deshaun Watson. So you can you saw those highlights. They play him out of the gun. He's mobile. There are enough boxes checked that you don't have to completely change what you were doing offensively.
No, 100%. Stylistically, they are similar players, and I think it's going to be a big role in this Niners game. First, his mobility, as you mentioned. Can you pick up some first downs or 7 yards here and there on scrambles when you have to elude the pocket? Can you make throws off platform and outside of structure like you just showed on that video there? He can do all those things. He does have a big arm. He's a good runner if they want a little bit of design run. I imagine they don't do a ton of designed run considering, you're going to back up and then have the third stringer. But yeah, there is that is the thing, though, is that you need explosives in this game. You're not going to win against the Niners, but also not with P.J. Walker, a guy who completes less than 60% of passes historically by trying to dink and dunk your way down the field. You need to take shots, throw it deep to Donovan Peoples-Jones, throw it deep to Amari Cooper, throw it deep to Elijah Moore, and kind of have one of those wild variance games where you hit on a couple bombs and things break your way in that favor. So that should be the game plan. That should be the plan, is try to hit the explosives, get him on the move the pocket, let him throw off platform and outside of structure. He is good in that regard. And like you said, it is similar in structure to what Deshaun Watson excels at as well, which obviously helps with a game plan when you're not changing things drastically, 1 week to the next.
Yeah, the concern as well as interceptions, touchdown to interception ratio, not great for his career, but that's not dissimilar to a lot of guys that get spot duty in the NFL.
Right. That's the nature of the position. If there were good backup quarterbacks, this would be a whole different league. It's not really a thing. Quarterback depth and all that, it's hard to establish. But yeah, like you said, there is going to be negatives. There are, but try to accentuate the positives. But I don't think you can play scared. And you can run on this team. This Niners team up the middle is a bit susceptible to the run. They have great pass rushers on the interior, but they're not the best run defenders. Obviously, their linebackers are probably as good against the run as any team in the NFL. But if you can get the ball to the second level on inside zone, and between the tackles running with Jerome Ford, I think that could be a winning game plan. And then, like I said, you let PJ take some shots here and there.
All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason for the first time today. There are quite a few of them today.
Hey, Jersey Joe from Cleveland. Just a theory. Watson is just faking it. He's faking it because of the 49ers. The other quarterbacks go in and get their heads beat in. And then Watkins comes back for the lesser opponents for the next month or two, and we win some games and he becomes a hero again. This is BS how this happens. I mean, it's just painful being a Browns fan. I can tell you that right now. I believe he's cheating the system, and I believe his players think he's cheating the system. Thank you.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Brad, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. He took a huge hit inside the 10-yard line, and throwing shoulder is one of those things nobody has seen, because the only time he's really tried to throw outside of it was warming up those hours before the game against the Ravens. I got to believe he just can't throw the football hard enough, well enough.
This is a guy that's played through some pretty serious injuries in the course of his career. I also remember even back to his rookie season when he tore his ACL. He returned, I want to say, in week 1 right away the following season, and that was on a Houston Texans team that was, kind of devoid of talent, particularly in the offensive line before they traded for Laramie Tunsil. So, yeah, look, I get it. I understand the frustration. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is pretty gnarly too. So, I don't think he's picking his spots. I think it happens to just be where the schedule falls. Maybe there is part of him that's thinking, why risk re-injury or re-aggravation of the injury against a team that is going to be a tough battle, even if I did play? But no, I don't think he's intentionally sitting out games or trying to build a hero narrative by playing the softer defenses across the NFL. It just happens to be the ferocious 49ers defense this weekend.
Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Talk some strengths and weaknesses for the Browns. Sports4CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, how's it going? This is Aaron, coming all the way from Los Angeles, California. I saw about an hour or so ago that Nicole Hardman of the New York Jets, who was someone that we were looking at possibly this offseason before we ended up acquiring Elijah Moore, he's being shopped around at least by the New York Jets. So obviously we know that Elijah's been struggling a little bit this year so far, hasn't really been able to get going, as of yet at least. Wanted to see what you guys thought if we were to, hopefully by the trade deadline in 3 weeks, make a move for Nicole Hardman. And what do you think about that? All right, take care and go Browns.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Brad, Hardman, we actually had talked about that yesterday. He was inactive. He's been inactive a couple of times for the Jets, so that's the reason they're likely shopping him. I don't know that he gives the Browns anything they don't already have that they haven't already figured out how to incorporate.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit of Marquise Goodwin replacement because obviously you want another speed element in this offense, and he's dealing with stuff himself. So there is that component. He's cheap. He's certainly available. They've been playing the undrafted rookie Xavier Gibson ahead of him. He doesn't even have a catch yet this year, but is clearly still ahead of him on the depth chart. And look, Hardman, I think, is a little bit limited, but get him the ball in space near the line of scrimmage and let him make players miss with his speed. I mean, he was second in receiving yards for the Kansas City Chiefs last year when they won the Super Bowl. But I just want to also quick point, Elijah Moore. I'm not blaming Deshaun or anyone for this, but he's been getting separation at an extremely high rate. I think the production is going to follow, but he's getting open. But yeah, I agree. It doesn't add a dynamic presence or a huge element to the offense, but it wouldn't hurt. He's cheap and he has some wheels on him. Yeah,
they've got to figure out a way to get the ball to Elijah Moore. That isn't behind they keep giving it to him behind the line of scrimmage, and that is not being productive right at this. For whatever reason, it hasn't, translated to the field.
Yeah, and against this 49ers defense with their edge rushers and their linebackers, jet sweeps is not the way to beat this defense. I can tell you that right now. So, yeah, I mean, look, he can win downfield too. Like we talk about him sometimes as a slot guy that can only catch low average up the target catches. Like he won downfield at Ole Miss all the time. We haven't really seen it in the NFL because the Jets really couldn't throw the ball when he was there, and it's still early here now. But he is getting open. I think they are going to develop more chemistry and find a way to work him more into this offense, get him more involved, like you said, not just behind the line of scrimmage, but also them manufacturing touches for him probably shows that they're seeing a lot of good in practice, and they want to just get him the ball because they know he is a productive and talented player. I really do. I think it's going to come. The first thing you got to look at is the guy getting open? Everything else trickles down from there. And the answer to that first question is an emphatic yes.
So when you look at the Browns' strengths and weaknesses, what do you see as kind of an objective guy rather than the home crowd that we are? Strengths and weaknesses for what you've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, this defensive line has been phenomenal both against the run and against the pass. Everything we talked about preseason, you're seeing a lot of exotic packages from Jim Schwartz. I mean, you got Myles Garrett doing Allen Iverson crossovers in the A-gap and as a stand-up guy, hand in the dirt, moving around the defensive line. Same with Zadarius Smith. I like how they have done a lot of Ogbakarankwo on the edge and kicking one of those guys inside on third downs. Like all the things we've talked about, that is the best unit on this defense, no question about it. And then the offensive line, as talented as they are, I think they could play some better football. Obviously, the guards are, both among the highest paid players. Their position haven't been bad, but they haven't been the game-wrecking, elite talents we've seen the last couple of years. So the strength really is that defense right now. But I really do think, again, like the offense with Deshaun Watson, with a little bit more time, I think it's going to get there. Like I think you are seeing a bit more of like clunky football and problems that can be corrected as opposed to fundamental issues that you worry maybe cannot be corrected.
I know you've also written an article for Pro Football Focus. NFL team needs trackers, one upcoming free agent, and a 2024 draft prospect for all 32 teams. Browns need offensive tackle. Not too many people are going to argue that. You have offensive tackle from Missouri, Javon Foster, as a prospect. And then a free agent possibility is a guy that Browns fans will remember, Mekhi Becton, was in that same draft class when the Browns elected to take Jedrick Wills. So take us through those two.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing with Foster is he's a guy that you probably could peg as you kick him inside to guard early on if you need to. And I think can also play right tackle and left tackle. but realistically, you want to develop him. They probably wanted to develop DeJuan Jones for a year or two as well. But, I think there is probably a concern of what kind of player can Jack Conklin be once he does return. So unfortunate he gets hurt again, has a pretty lengthy injury history throughout his career. And at a certain point, it does catch up to you. So I think adding more tackle depth, even if that player doesn't start right away, I picked him because he's not going to be a first-round pick, probably not going to be a second-round pick either. But a good player, very good in space, good athlete, nimble for his size, and I think has position flex. So I think that's a name to keep an eye on there. And then, free agency, that would probably be more so if they really wanted to, they'd have to replace a tackle, obviously. You don't sign Mekhi Becton. He's playing very good football right now. Also, some injuries in his career, but playing really good football, I think would be a perfect fit in this offense. And when healthy, is a true game wrecker in both facets of football. If they want to continue to spend and add on that offensive line and improve, an already good unit.
All right, so this is from the Bleacher Report. 3 players the Browns should target at the trade deadline. And along those lines, the first one of them is a tackle, Garrett Bowles. Cleveland's best fix to the Wills problem is for him to improve his errors out of the bye week. But if the issues persist, Bowles has to be #1 trade target. Do you think that is realistic? Is Garrett Bowles a guy that, the Browns could target as a trade?
I think the Broncos are going to undergo a full-scale fire sale and pretty much trade every player of value. But, Bowles is one of the strengths of the team, a very highly paid tackle, a good player, no question. I'm not sure if he's the greatest fit from the run game perspective, but is a very, very good pass protector and has been for a very long time. I don't want to shoot down all these ideas, but I don't know. I think it's a bit pricey and a move I'm not sure Denver would be open to as much as, like I said, they're probably trying to trade a lot of players. I don't know if Garrett Bowles is on that list.
All right. Here's a wide receiver that the same kind of report has there. DJ Chark, Panthers 0-5 Chark, 1-year contract, makes him a perfect trade target for the Browns. Other contenders to go after over the next few weeks. What do you think about Chark? That's a younger guy, I guess.
Yeah, no question about it. On a cheap 1-year, $5 million deal, a 6'4" guy who ran a 4.3 4.40. When he does play, he's one of the best field stretchers in the NFL. Always near the top of the league in yards per reception and average depth of target. And now healthy again in Carolina, has been pretty productive the last couple weeks. A couple touchdowns, a couple big bomb receptions. So that one does make sense. I think financially it makes sense. I also think Carolina, just like Denver, is probably undergoing a full-scale fire sale. I'll say this too, another name on that depth chart, Terrace Marshall, the former second-round pick, another former second-round pick out of LSU, just like Chark, had 9 receptions in week 4 and then played 0 snaps in week 5. Whenever that happens near the trade deadline, your antenna should kind of go up. And he's a really good player as well. Also a field stretcher, a good downfield receiver, was very good last year on throws 10-plus yards downfield. They have Donovan Peoples-Jones, they have other players, but again, you want to add another speed element, another downfield target. I think either of those guys in Carolina, it could make sense.
Yeah, and the Panthers are playing Jonathan Mingo, rookie, and that makes sense because of their situation and with their rookie quarterback. This one is a quarterback, a younger quarterback, the third one of these 3 in this article. They go Drew Lock. Lock, only 26 years old, could help spot start duty if Watson's shoulder issue persists. Lock, more of a stretch as a trade candidate, but if the Browns look to add another quarterback, it's someone whose profile around the same age, they can still develop a player a bit in Kevin Stefanski's offense. Again, I'm not sure that makes sense because they do have P.J. Walker, and I don't know what it would cost to get Lock, but it's intriguing at least.
Yeah, it's intriguing. It makes sense from Cleveland's perspective. For Seattle, he had to come in against the Giants when Geno Smith got banged up and actually played pretty darn well. Had the throw to Noah Fant that went for about 65 yards, then scored a touchdown down in the red zone. So I just don't see a playoff team trading away a good backup. All the reasons that you just described for Cleveland, that all, of course, makes sense. Seattle feels the exact same way.
Yeah, that 100%. And he did play very well for Geno Smith in that short stretch they played. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
I want to comment on the Browns fan base. All the reports that we're getting from the practices and everything else like that, I don't think that it's beneficial for our sanity. Because, yes, our record is worse than what we are. We're a talented team, but at the same time, we have no Nick Chubb. We lost Jack Conklin, and our coaches have to adapt to what we have. Everybody's acting like it's all Kevin Stefanski's fault. He can't control if somebody's hurt. He cannot control everything. You can install the best game plan in the world, but if your players can't execute it versus a great NFL defense, then you're going to have a struggling offense. So you guys cannot hold high expectations for a head football coach who is trying their best to put their players in the best position to win when basically everything is almost stacked against them.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Brad, everybody in the league has injuries. Job of an NFL head coach is to figure out what you have and how to maximize it.
Yeah, that is the nature of the NFL. Obviously, the injury bug's been pretty tough in Cleveland so far with Jack Conk. We talked about, Nick Chubb, one of the most valuable, offensive players in the league. So it has been tough, but there's other teams that are dealing with a whole lot more, or at least, equal footing. I mean, we just talked about Seattle. They haven't had either starting tackle the entire season, and their offense is one of the best in the league. So, yeah, it's tough. You got to maximize it. I think that they haven't not overcome the injuries. Like DeJuan Jones' development and his production so far, I think, has exceeded what a fourth-round rookie you'd expect to see. So they have been able to overcome some of it. But yeah, that is unfortunately the nature of the NFL. You probably should have won the Pittsburgh Steelers game, and if they were 3-1, we're probably having a different conversation. They'll get back on track. They'll figure it out. They'll get healthy. Most importantly, with Deshaun Watson, even we talk about Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford, the great backup, right in place. They've done a good job of addressing depth in addition to starters. It's a tough league.
So one of the things we've talked about is the run game. Take a look at this. This is the fewest yards gained before contact, minimum of 50 carries. Jerome Ford has the least. He's got 2. Tyler Algier, 25. Dillon, 38 yards. Najee Harris, 43. And Kelly, 59. And I know there's no easy answer to this question. Is that part of the line isn't playing? There's an adjustment to the run game. There's just a lot of factors that go into an effective run game, especially in the NFL.
Yeah, that stat for me, and it's probably from PFF. I don't know if he tagged us in it, but that for me is an offensive line and offensive scheme stat. It's not really a running back stat. I mean, obviously, if you're slow and can't burst through a hole before getting contacted, that's your fault. But those offensive lines just on that list are getting blown up at the point of attack. Or the scheme that is being provided for them is not, maximizing the ability. And that's not Cleveland's issue. They've obviously, Nick Chubb is probably top of the NFL or near it in that category most seasons. So it's not a Jerome Ford stat. I think it's kind of a weird, maybe just outlier situation for the last couple of games. Maybe he isn't seeing holes quite yet and bursting through at the right time or being patient and letting holes develop. But I again think he will get there. But yeah, that's not a running back stat. That is an offensive line and scheme stat first and foremost.
Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Dive in a little bit closer to that Browns 49ers matchup. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave, Frank from Cleveland. I got a few things for you today. Stefanski. He's the Joe Woods of our offense. He's our downfall. Everyone said, oh, great play call. Whatever. I don't see nothing great about his calls. He's got all the weapons. He don't know how to use them. Number 2, going out trading for a wide receiver. We got wide receivers on the bench that could be playing. He doesn't use them. Number 3, has there ever been a team with co-head coaches? Say if Stefanski got fired, Jim Schwartz is the head coach of the defense. Go out and get an offensive man. He's a co-head coach of the offense. Has there ever been anything like that? And whoever on the 49ers is going up against our man, Jedrick Wills, will be the defensive player of the week again. But, love you, man. Be good. Be safe. Great show as always. Thank you, Dave, for taking my call.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Brad, again, when the offense isn't running, the play caller takes an absolute beating. Again, he got a lot out of Jacoby Brissett. He got a lot out of Baker Mayfield. I got to believe he'll figure it out. If not, it's going to be a long season here, as you can tell.
For sure. Yeah, I know. It's the voicemail, the vibes have changed since last time I came on the show. This is a stat that's not going to make you feel any better, caller, but we actually have Deshaun Watson as the least productive quarterback in the NFL on busted coverage plays. So you can't really blame Kevin Stefanski for that. That means when a corner falls down or the defense is just in the wrong position and we have a wide receiver or multiple charted as wide open, Deshaun Watson is the least productive quarterback in the NFL on such plays. Again, small sample size, all of those things, but that's not really a Kevin Stefanski issue. I'm not saying he's been perfect, but outside of the Tennessee game, Watson has not been good enough. And again, I think he will get there. We have all these reasons for optimism. It'll get there, but I don't know if Kevin Stefanski's been the issue so far this year.
So, big matchup with the San Francisco 49ers, who, they've been the best team in football. I know the Dolphins have flashed some, but the 49ers just look awesome. What do you think about that matchup?
It's going to be a tough one. Yeah, I mean, the Niners are, in my opinion, the best team in the NFL. I still don't think Brock Purdy is lighting the world on fire. I think he's probably in the 15 to 20 range of quarterbacks, but I don't think he's also just a passenger in this offense. I think he is, to a degree, elevating some components. He gets the ball out super quickly, clean footwork, always has his shoulders pointed where he wants to throw the ball, does occasional inaccuracies and stuff like that. And I think the biggest matchup for Cleveland, surprise, surprise, this offensive line in San Francisco outside of Trent Williams is not a good unit. And so the way they mitigate that is getting the ball out extremely quickly. But if you play some press man coverage and take away some of those early throws or early throwing windows because you're bumping receivers off their route stem and not letting them get free releases, and then the pass rush gets home because Purdy has to hold on to the ball for a little bit, again, beating Trent Williams is tough, but the other four guys are very beatable, and I think that's going to be the key to this game is making him hold the ball because the coverage is playing up and playing physical and letting your pass rush get home and beating an offensive line that has one good player, frankly. That's the key, and it's a huge mismatch and a huge benefit for Cleveland this weekend.
Yeah, we'll get to that offensive line in just a second. Anthony Walker, he talked about what he's seen from second-year quarterback Brock Purdy so far.
As a quarterback, I don't care. The great ones know that I get the ball out of my hand, I get it to my playmakers. They're going to make me look good, and he's done that. He's done a great job. Obviously, great ball placement. Great reads, quick reads. He's never rushed. He has great poise, obviously, to be, a year two quarterback. But, like I said, just getting the ball to his playmakers, and he's able to do that very efficiently.
How much of his success is, and we saw Kyle Shanahan here with, Brian Hoyer and basically Andrew Hawkins and not a elite receiver go 7-4 before they force Johnny Manziel down his throat. How much of Brock Purdy's success has been Kyle Shanahan, do you think?
Yeah, I think Walker's answer was perfect. Look, a lot of it. I mean, Kyle Shanahan is the best offensive play designer and play caller in the National Football League. I think that's pretty much an established objective fact at this point. And also, when you have Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, you're going to be an explosive and exciting offense. But I do think, and look, this is also like my opinion has changed from last year. What he just talked about, his rhythm, his timing, his poise is really a benefit to this offense. And he trusts that, he knows where to go with the football pre-snap. He lets plays develop, finds the open receiver. What I like about him is, look, the tools are never going to be there. He's never going to lead the NFL in targets 20-plus yards downfield. But in the intermediate area between 10 and 20 yards downfield, he's our third highest graded quarterback. He leads the NFL in yards per attempt on such throws by about 4 yards. And the ball placement is the biggest thing for me, where last year I thought his ball placement was poor and actually took away some yards after the catch. This year, I think he gets the ball to playmakers where they don't have to slow down. They catch it in stride and continue to gain yards after the catch. So, like I said, do I think he's a top 10 quarterback? No. Will he ever be there? Maybe not. But he is this is a negative connotation. He's a great game manager. He's all those things that we kind of give a little bit of a negative connotation to. if you're driving that Lamborghini in San Francisco, game manager is just fine.
Yeah, absolutely. You can make a very, very nice career doing that. This kind of illustrates what you were talking about before. These are the PFF grades for the 49ers. Trent Williams, elite, and then the next highest one is their center, Jake Brendel. Then you've got guys below 60. The question becomes, can Jim Schwartz and the pressure, can you speed up Brock Purdy? Can he be sped up, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think bringing a blitz and bringing extra pressure, there is an inherent risk to that because of how good this team is at getting the ball out. I mean, their screen package is as good as anyone, and also just Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey are probably the best blitz outlets in the entire NFL. But yes, you can. And I think this pass rush can get home with 4. Again, with those exotic looks and moving things around, I think there needs to be a lot of simulated pressure and stunts and twists and things like that. So the offensive line and Brock Purdy are confused about what they're seeing and are not confident in what they're going to do pre-snap, maybe even rotating coverages a little bit as well. Like, I think Schwartz needs to get as creative and freaky as he ever has, because you have to throw them off and take away the first read or the confidence in the first read in this offense. That's how you slow down a team that scored 30 points in every game this season.
All right, before I let you go, this another tweet that's going to be concerning for Browns fans. So the Browns defense has been pretty good, but one thing they struggle against, play-action passing game, giving up 9.5 yards per attempt. 25th in the NFL. Purdy is averaging 10.6 yards per attempt with play action. That's 5th best in the league. Also, Browns are 31st in the league in yards allowed after the catch per reception, 5.81. Those two things are things that Kyle Shanahan and this offense does exceedingly well, which kind of goes back to, boy, you better get crazy up front and not let them get to play action and yards after the catch.
And this, I think, is one element of the Jim Schwartz defense, that he wants his linebackers to play forward and to crash. And it obviously has a lot of benefits, but also, has some drawbacks. You look at Tennessee the last couple of years with Zach Cunningham and David Long, like good football players, but we measure how much a player bites on play action. And those two guys were both like top 10 in the NFL. And like I said, it probably is by design to a degree, but I think this is probably a game where you ask Walker and you ask Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah to guard the second level, to take away intermediate throwing windows, and maybe play a little bit more back as opposed to playing forward. I think that has to be the game plan, because like you said, Kyle Shanahan weaponizes play action more than anybody in the NFL.
Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus, as always. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Brad.
Thank you.
Brad Spielberger, make sure you check him out. Always really good stuff. Pro Football Focus, some insight on this Browns-49ers matchup coming up Sunday, 1 o'clock at Cleveland Browns Stadium. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily, Network 216, straight ahead. We continue talking Browns. Stay with us.
Come back to Go Forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America,
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hello, Dave. This is Ernie from Virginia calling. The new diagnosis of Deshaun's shoulder. I've been in orthopedic surgery now for over 40 years. I have never heard of a bruise of the rotator cuff. There's always going to be the diagnosis of a tear or fraying or detachment, but a bruise of the rotator cuff is nothing that I've ever received on an MRI report from a radiologist. So take it for what it's worth. That does not sound like a professional diagnosis, but rather a layman's possible interpretation. That's all I had to say.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Casey Kinnamon, Dog Pound Daily Network 216. Casey, we will not play doctors on TV. I do not like hearing the term rotator cuff with quarterback or pitcher or anybody who wants to use that arm. That doesn't sound good, no matter what it is. It sounds like bad.
Yeah, and we're only as good as the information we've been given, and we've already had this injury evolve into something else. You know what I mean? So it's when you get to the word rotator cuff, I get the apprehension, and we just got to pray that what we're being told now is the correct diagnosis, because we're in the dark. We're not going to be as privy to what they're telling us, and we're not seeing him work out. Stefanski said he was throwing, and as part of his rehab. We don't know what that entails. You don't know if he's getting better. We got to hope that that's the case. But at the end of the day, we're not going to know until they tell us. So until further notice, I guess we're just hanging on the hope that that's all this is.
Yeah, and Mary Kay Cabot tweets this out. So she was one of the people that found out and confirmed it was his rotator cuff. So contusion, whatever it is supposed to take 2 to 6 weeks to heal. Now, that would be 2 weeks would be Sunday because you didn't play. It's from the Titans game. Having said that, it sure doesn't sound like he's a lock to play against the 49ers by any stretch.
No, and how much of this is the coaching staff kind of feeling burnt by being misled going into the Ravens game? So now they're just not going to tell us anything. Like they're playing it very close to the vest. They're definitely not going to come out and say he should be good to go. They have already done that. It backfired. So now they're keeping it super safe. And that's a pretty wide variance, 2 to 6 weeks. I mean, like I said, we're getting close to that middle range of that. It'd be nice to know that he was progressing, but that's where we get scared. It's the unknown. We don't know, and things that have been going on, like in the 216 group chat, shout out to Zach DeFranco of the Faithful Dogs podcast. Like, what if we're dealing with some sort of nerve damage? You know what I mean? Like this thing, it obviously evolved once. We just got to hope it doesn't evolve again.
Well, the flip side of it is anytime it's the throwing shoulder, another hit to it, does it set it back? So those are all things that go into the decision when you put him back on the field. And he has to be able to throw the ball effectively when you put him back on the field. This is concerning. This Jedrick Wills pressure rate allowed via True Media PFF, and it goes by year. So 2020, 3.3. Progressively increasing each year up to this season. 11% already allowed more pressures through 4 games than he allowed through 15 games as a rookie. The other thing is they're throwing the ball. You're throwing the ball. There's so many things that go into that. Throwing the ball more. Nick Chubb's been gone for a couple of games, so there isn't let's get to the quarterback is kind of the defensive mindset. But that's got to get better. Whether it's with Jedrick Wills or whomever, you can't have your left tackle who is giving up an 11% pressure rate.
Those numbers tell a terrible story. I mean, if you just look at where after his rookie year, I can speak for myself. I was pretty optimistic of what his upper bound limits could be. And just each year it's devolved. And we're to the point now where it's a liability to have him out there. Especially if you have a quarterback with a hurt shoulder or a young guy like DTR or even PJ Walker. We're to the point now where these guys could file an OSHA complaint for an unsafe work condition. You know what I mean? It's I don't know what you do. Obviously, if they had a better option, they would be out there, and they do not. So they got to figure something out. This thing's taking a nosedive, and it's dangerous out there right now with him playing left tackle. And I was looking up some stats, and ESPN had him with a 93% pass rush win rate. I find that very hard to believe. That means the 7% that he's getting beat, those are sacks and pressures flat out, because 19 pressures through 4 games, that's ridiculous. You know, that's almost half of what this offensive line has allowed. And like I said, it's a liability, and they got to get something to change. You just got to hope that maybe a team views him as something they could maybe transfer him back to right tackle or something. And maybe that's how you get out of this. But they got to figure out a way to get out from underneath of this.
So this is PFF offensive line rankings. This from the U Stadium tweeting this out. So Eagles 1, Lions 2, Cowboys 3, Colts 4, and Browns 5. Yeah, I don't want to disagree, but it sure doesn't feel like that offensive line is performing that well.
I got to get my eyes checked. I don't know. I've watched a lot of football, and I haven't seen all 32 teams, but I've seen enough to know they do not look like a top 5 unit to me. And bear in mind, they're paid like the top unit, you know, and part of it's just an ever-changing thing. You've got some moving pieces, but like it's devolved. If you'd asked me going into the season, I would have told you this is an elite run blocking team and an above average pass blocking team. Neither of those statements are true right now. I have faith in neither of those statements. And you're seeing individuals play well. DeJuan's been an excellent pass blocker. Joel's an excellent run blocker, but this isn't equaling the sum. This is not giving you the product that it should, giving especially how much these guys get paid.
So this tweet will kind of put in perspective my thoughts on this. So this is Browns rushing yards gained before contact this year. Nick Chubb, 57 yards before contact. Deshaun Watson, 43. DTR, 17. Pierre Strong, 5. Harrison Bryant, 3. Remember, Harrison Bryant has done those quarterback sneaks. And Jerome Ford, 2. What I'm seeing by this is Nick Chubb is making that offensive line look much, 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 much more effective than they actually have been.
Yeah, and it's what we always focused on what he did after contact, because but the 57 yards before contact, that's showing you he knew where the running lanes would be. He understood the cutback opportunities that maybe these running backs don't. But when you're watching the All-22, I'm not seeing anything there. I'm seeing these running backs getting what's there, and there is nothing. You know, for me, the onus is on this offensive line to win at the point of attack and at least give these guys an opportunity to get 3.5 yards, like 2 yards. That's crazy to me. You know, it's hard for me to believe that is all lack of vision or pacing when you get the ball. To me, this just kind of illustrates how bad this offensive line has been at the point of attack in the run game.
So the question becomes, how do you tweak it to make it work? Are they running enough out of the gun? Are you trying to make Jerome Ford? Have you tweaked it enough for Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt, and Pierre Strong? Because they're not Nick Chubb.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. You're not getting Nick Chubb back. That 5.2 it's gone. So you need to find it in other ways. But that's the other point of this is maybe Stefanski's run game just been schemed up. Maybe that it's that predictable to where they have all the answers to the test before the play even happens, giving your line no opportunity, giving your running backs no opportunity. So I pray that they've used this bye week to come up with a couple different scheme variations to where you can free up some stuff. You know, I was very encouraged when I saw to Pierre Strong off tackle. You know, I think that you could kind of lean on some of those concepts, but this team has been known for the wide zone, and it hasn't been there. Now, part of that's, DeJuan Jones isn't the athlete that Jack Conklin is in space. So that takes away a lot of your opportunity to the right. And we already know what's going on to the left. So they do have to figure some stuff out. I just hope they use this off week, to their favor and is able to figure out a couple answers.
Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily Network 216 and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily Network 216. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey guys, this is Ron from Cleveland. What I wanted to call and talk about today is the real problem with the Cleveland Browns. And that problem is Kevin Stefanski. He's basically the only guy I've ever seen that can have a news conference and speak for 30 minutes and not say a word. All he does is stare at the menu in his hand. And I'll tell you what, I'm not the brightest guy on earth, but if I stared at that menu that long, I wouldn't need to look at it. I'd have it memorized because he doesn't come out from behind it. That's not a head coach. That's an offensive coordinator. And I don't know if you see where we finish every year, but he's not too damn good at that either. Sorry to bend your ears like I'm doing, but it's just getting frustrating seeing the Cleveland Browns have a fantastic team year in and year out and finish in the last place. Thanks a lot, you guys. As always, I'm a Browns fan. I ain't going to woof. I'm woofed out. Bye-bye.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Casey, I've sat through plenty of NFL head coaches, and he's about like everybody else. None of them say anything. I get fans' frustrations, but what do you want him to say? He knows they have to play better.
Yeah, I get the frustration. I mean, and it's going to manifest itself and you're going to look for a fall guy. But what Kevin Stefanski does or does not say in a press conference is the least of my worries. He does play everything close to the vest, but, look around the league. You think Bill Belichick's out there giving you nuggets? No, he'll put you to sleep. You know what I mean? It's just his style. And, we're sitting here 1 week ago today talking about he said something he shouldn't have said. He gave too much up, so he can't win unless he wins on the field. You do that enough consistently, the other people will overlook their little quirks and what they don't like about the head coach. But for me personally, what a coach says in a press conference doesn't get me one way or the other. It's simply coach speak.
Yeah, and as far as looking at his play sheet, a lot of times they're doing that so you can't read lips. They started doing that several years ago. Again, he's trying to call plays. He's not specifically trying to call plays that don't work. I do guarantee you that. Now, this is more concerning than any of that. The Panthers' passing game has generated only 9 passes of 20-plus yards. Browns 7 and Bengals 5 are the only that have fewer than that. And again, especially when Deshaun Watson is healthy, that has to change.
Yeah, and I'm guessing all 7 of those came inside the first 3 games with Watson. But that's simply not explosive enough. This is a team that is looking to become more explosive, so you would want that number to be 3 to 4 a game to loosen up the defenses. 7 through 3 games, that's not explosive enough, especially for the personnel that you have on the field and the emphasis that they had towards being more explosive. You're not seeing it manifest itself on the field, so that is very concerning. So Browns defense has been pretty good. There were a couple of short fields against the Ravens that led to that game getting away. Take a look at this tweet. Some notes on the Browns defense. 69.9% success rate against run plays. Jordan Elliott, 40.9% run stop win rate, 18th among all defensive linemen. So, and you see again, Dalvin Tomlinson has been a run stuffer, but Jordan Elliott has been put in some situations where he's become effective. The run defense, we saw some things against the Ravens that are of a concern without question, and I'm sure we're going to see more of them against the 49ers and Christian McCaffrey, but the run defense hasn't been one of the problems. Yeah, overall, I think 69.9%, you'll live with that every day of the week. I shudder to think what it would have been a year ago with this defensive tackle room. And for Elliott, man, I'm happy for him. Like, that is a guy that I had on the outside looking in, and he's been able to latch on as a rotational piece. And you can see with the lack of overexposure to playing time, he's playing efficiently, and he's giving you, some good minutes when he's out there. One thing to think about is Now, would someone like Siaka Ika have a higher percentage of run stop? Maybe. But just think about where we were at the day after Ika was drafted. We thought this dude was going to play a major role. They haven't even had to use him. Now, he was injured the first couple weeks, but now they've got such a solid rotation at defensive tackle, they can actually bring that dude along slow. Where this defensive tackle room is at right now from where they were at a year ago is night and day.
And again, they're going to get a test against the 49ers without question. I know you wrote an article about this. Grant Delpit, he's been one of the stars of that defense. The contract is up. You're thumping the table, get him extended. Take us through that and what you've seen and why you think that.
Well, that was on my bye-week wish list right there. And it was something that I wrote before Andrew Berry's press conference, and he was asked about extending Delpit. And Berry doesn't give you much of anything. He definitely does talk contracts, but you could see him light up when he was talking about Delpit's play. And that is someone they need to look at extending. If you're looking at all the contract-eligible players they have, that's priority number one for me. Just what he's been able to become since Jim Schwartz has walked through the door. Now, Delpit's given us flashes in the past, but you could definitely say it's inconsistent. He's been anything but. He's been consistent. He's been weaponized. He's been someone that this team can move and be whatever the team needs him to be on any specific week, whether that's an overhang linebacker or a big nickel. And he's been very versatile. He's become a difference maker. You can never have too many math changers on your roster. And Delpit's become one of those guys. And if I'm the Browns, that's got to be a priority, is getting him inked long term.
Yeah, and he's another guy coming up against 49ers, Kittle and Deebo Samuel. Those are going to be guys that Grant Delpit's going to have to figure out a way to help that defense stop. Case Kinnamon and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, focus in a little bit more on the upcoming matchup with the 49ers. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to Go Forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily Network 216. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Davey, guys, I love your show. I'm just so fed up with all this Watson. We paid him all this money. He's choking, and he's disrespectful. I don't even know if I can be a Cleveland Browns fan anymore, and I've been a fan since 1972. Until he's gone, I think I'm going to be gone because I just can't do it anymore. I'm just so tired of this franchise never getting it right, always messing it up, and I'm just tired of it. And I just wish that either they get their act together and get rid of this black cloud. Woof, woof, I still love my Browns, but I don't know what to do.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Casey, it's a tough time for the fan base. Again, Watson's a guy that played with a punctured, who couldn't fly, so he drove with a punctured lung to play in a game. He's played on a torn ACL. He's not a guy that's not going to show up if there's any way he can do that. He's just not. So that tells me his throwing shoulder's pretty messed up.
Yeah, again, I get the fan base's frustration. It's a frustrating time to be a Browns fan. But let's look at it in context. He's played in 3 games. 2 of the games, the Browns have won by over 20 points, and he had 1 bad game. And the last time we seen him, the last play he had was a touchdown, and he was chest bumping Kevin Stefanski. You know, I get it. It's frustrating that he can't go. But if you can't throw a football, you can't throw a football. You can only want it so much. At some point, the body has to cooperate. You know, we don't know what if he can't get velocity on the football and he can't do the things he needs to succeed on the football field, then putting him out there is not just it's a disservice to your entire team. You know, so it's frustrating. I get it. Winning's the only thing that cures any of this. So until he's able to get back on the field and get back on, get on a winning streak, I get why he's going to feel like a black cloud to several fans.
Yeah, and the other thing is you can't even. With the Nick Chubb injury, it's not even like there isn't the guy you can hand off to and say, go get us 4 yards, 5 yards. So It's concerning. All right. I know you wrote an article, 4 keys to victory for the Browns against the 49ers. We're going to take a look at that. Number 4, you have establish the run. We've talked about that. We'll talk about it a little bit more. Number 3, constant pressure. And I am with you. Brock Purdy hasn't been sped up yet. Let's see if the Browns can do it. Number 2, limit yak yard after catch. And 49ers are really good at it. And number 1, something the Browns have not done in any of their 4 games, win the turnover battle. If they could be +2 in the turnover battle, or +3, I'd take that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at that, they established the run. I don't want people to get it twisted. I'm not saying the Browns need to be a run-first team. They just need to be efficient enough to keep defenses honest. Because if you're telling and you're letting the San Francisco 49ers know that you're throwing the ball regardless, those guys are going to hunt. When you got someone like Joey Bosa on Jedrick Wills, that is a problem. So just be efficient enough in the running game. And the pressuring Purdy, man, I wasn't big on Purdy coming into the season. I watched his games from last year, and I thought he got lucky a lot. This year, I don't feel that way. This year, he's processing at an elite pace, especially post-snap. They need to speed that up. They need to force him into mistakes. And they have the pass rush to get that done. So that is a path to victory. And if they can force him into mistakes, it's up to the back 7 to capitalize. If you look at the yards after the catch, we talked about it earlier. Man, the 49ers are a team that lives on yard after the catch. And it's Christian McCaffrey. It's Deebo Samuel. It's George Kittle. They have a variety of ways. And they do not hesitate to throw it short of the sticks on 3rd down because they have guys who can extend and take a 5-yard pass and make it a 22-yard gain real quick. So tackling short of the sticks is the emphasis. But the number 1 thing is always going to be the turnover battle. That is the most telling stat in wins and losses. You look at the Browns, -7 on the season. Juxtapose out the 49ers, +7. That's tops in the league. They're undefeated for a reason. You cannot afford to lose a turnover battle against a team like San Francisco and have a prayer of winning.
And the thing that's amazing, the Browns have lost the turn. They haven't pushed it yet. They've lost the turnover battle, and somehow they're still 2-2. The Browns had problems with a lot of motion that the Ravens did in that loss week before the bye. Anthony Walker talked about the 49ers doing that same thing and doing it pretty well.
They're great, man. They do a lot of things that really try to change the picture for the defense. Like I said, it makes sure fundamentals have to go up, especially as linebackers. It's a huge task on us this week to just control that middle of the field. Keep everybody calm when they're doing all the shifts and motions. And like I said, it's a huge job for us, and I think we're up for the challenge.
It seems like Shanahan likes to attack the middle of the field.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, you move guys, you do a lot of motions and stuff, and you get guys to jump out of place. Like I said, it just goes back to our fundamentals, our technique, us being in the right spot. Don't let all the get you out of your, out of your zone, out of your spot, whatever we're doing. So, we just got to be clean.
And that was something. The good news is they can go back and look at what the Ravens did, because the 49ers do a lot of that same stuff. The bad news is you better correct it, or it's going to be even a longer afternoon.
Yeah, Shanahan's always at the forefront of things. So they run a ton of window dressing. You're seeing a continuation of it in Miami with McDaniels. Those teams now, they understand what pre-shift motion can do, especially when you have move pieces like the 49ers do with McCaffrey, with Deebo Samuel, even Kittle. They move these dudes around a ton because defense comes down to alignment, assignment, and keys. And if you can change that alignment at the last second, especially if you catch a team in a zone defense, that's how you can create blown coverages. Because if you don't know who you're handing the player off to, or if you're the guy responsible, those pre-shift motions, they can really throw you out of whack.
All right, this from Pro Football Focus. Normally, Nick Chubb is on this list, but these are forced missed tackles for the season. Travis Etienne, number 1 at 34. Bijan Robinson, the rookie, 26. And Christian McCaffrey, who's coming to Cleveland Browns Stadium, 25 forced missed tackles. Again, those are numbers that Nick Chubb usually has. Tackling, always important, even more so when you got Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, and Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, McCaffrey's a machine, and at some point I wonder if they're going to actually pull his reps back, because I would be worried about, using him up too much early in the season, because he's always had a history of getting banged up. but they've shown no signs of slowing down. Their backup, Elijah Mitchell's banged up. So, you'd think that they would try to, not put McCaffrey at risk. But I'll tell you what, man, he's so dangerous with the ball in his hands. And it's in a variety of ways. It isn't just from the running back position. He'll motion him out to slot, get him some easy looks, and get him in space. And he is an absolute nightmare in space. So corralling him's got to be priority number one. He's the engine that moves that team. He's a dynamic threat in a multitude of ways, and he can take it to the house on you. So, keeping tabs on him, man. JOK and A. Walker want to have a busy day on Sunday. Yeah, I believe he can tie or actually break the NFL record for most consecutive games with a touchdown. It's 14 or 15. I lost track of it, but he's that good. Having said that, the Browns do have the pieces to deal with that offense. As silly as that sounds, because that offense is the best in the league, you've got the speed and you've got the coverage guys. If that defense comes out and plays the way they are capable of, they can keep the Browns in the game. Yeah, and I know the shroud of mystery at quarterback right now kind of brings this all down, but the defense is healthy. That's something, that's what's going to keep you in this game, point blank, period. This defense has to go out there and show out. And they do have the pieces in place to deal with a team like the 49ers, which they're one of the very few teams in the league that can make a statement like that and it not be ludicrous. They actually have the pieces in place to deal with a McCaffrey, to deal with a Brandon Ayuk. It's all about execution now. It's all about execution and how they approach this game. The offense just has to do enough. The defense needs to go out there and show out. And if they play to the top of their abilities, the Browns will be in this game. Casey Kinnamon, Dog Pound Daily, Network 216, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Casey. Anytime, Dave. Thanks for having me. Casey Kinnamon, make sure you check him out. Always really good stuff. Dog Pound Daily as well as Network 216. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.